Hey guys, we got another video for you today. This one is something I've been seeing a lot come across the Halloween Facebook groups we're a part of, and everybody is looking for a tutorial on a big giant spider. This is Hemi. He's our house spider, and this guy is what started it all for us. This is our first build, and he got the haunt to become what it is today. So I know it's going to be a little difficult with the fact that he's already been built for me to run this tutorial through for you guys, but I'm going to do this as quickly and in-depth as possible. He's out today because he does need a little bit of repairs that I'm going to go through with you guys as well. But here he is. Okay, so what we started off with was a sheet of plywood. We mapped out how big we wanted the body, and we cut a figure 8 pattern out of it. Our next step was to actually blow up 2 balloons, one smaller one for the head, one bigger one for the body. Attached that on. And then once we got all that figured out, we marked out where we wanted his legs. So we used 1/2 inch PVC tubing for his legs and his fangs there. And we drilled straight through these little cut-off pieces, so that way we can make his legs a little more easy to store when it's not Halloween time. So we mapped out where we wanted it, screwed them in. As you can see, we have a little bit of wiggle room in some of these, just to help us kind of position the legs how we want once he gets up on the roof. So once these guys were in place, I used quite a few cans of spray foam to start building up the body and the head shape. I think I used 6 cans of the 3-inch expanding great stuff, if I'm not mistaken. And once the foam was all set on the balloons, we left the balloons in there, fully inflated and everything. I know some people use beach balls and whatnot, but when we decided to throw it together, we had balloons and we went with what we had. So after the foam was all set, I then carved out the shape of the body and the head that I wanted, and we covered it in drywall mud just to kind of smooth it out a little bit more. I wanted to give it a little bit more firmness to the foam so that it didn't seep in too much water and whatnot. When we did the foam, we did come down past the edges here that way and underneath. That way, when we put in these eyelets to hold them down to the roof, these weren't pushing down. It was being supported by all the foam here, and it allowed us to get in and put everything we needed to there. So make sure you guys leave yourself a little lip. It does come in handy, especially when trying to figure out how to attach these guys to your roofs. Now, the problem we had last year and the repair we need to do is, as you can see, the drywall mud's kind of coming up, and I didn't quite get these areas as smooth as possible. So what happened is we had a little bit of water getting in here while he was sitting on the roof. Well, not necessarily right here, but in these areas. And it created a small blowout in between the foam and the mud on his back end here. So what I'm going to be doing for that repair is filling in all these spots, all these little bits here, shaving that down and then patching him up and painting him. This time what I'm going to be using is tight foam. Just after the last experience with the fountain and using the tight foam on the fountain, I like the density of it so much better, especially for props that are going to weather the elements constantly in your haunt. This guy's on the roof, so obviously we can't really protect him very much, and it was the same thing with the fountain. It's going to be immersed in water, so if you have any props like that you're not putting under a covering or anything like that, invest in some tight foam. It's really great stuff. Super easy to paint over too. Definitely a great thing. Sometimes you can find it on a buy one get one half off sale. Keep an eye out for that. I think the last time there was one, I bought 10 cans and the guy looked at me pretty funny, but it saves you some money here and there. So once again, after I got the mudding done, I figured out how I wanted to paint him. I wanted to have some fun. So this was kind of like my little play on that spider you see in, I think, Australia, with the smiley face on its back. I painted a little skull there. Have some fun. Get creative with how you paint your spiders. And we have a black roof. So I wanted him to stand out, but not be like completely out there. I wanted him to kind of sneak up on some people who weren't really paying attention, but I also wanted people to be able to see him. If we would have painted him black and gray, he would have completely blended in with the roof and it would have been completely pointless. So, once I got that all painted, what I used for his eyes, and as you can see, these guys are going to need some repairing soon. We had some stuff falling on them. I used one clear plastic Christmas bulb from Dollar Tree, and I cut it in half for the two bigger eyes. Painted the insides of these guys, so you can see there's no chipping or anything going on with that paint there. And then I hot glued that, and these little eyes, these are just ping pong balls from the dollar store. There's something quick and easy to get on there. We finished him just in time for Halloween last year, so I wanted to get that done really quick. But with the ping pong balls, we had to paint the outsides, and I just used acrylic paint. So we're gonna have to paint all these guys again, figure out how to pull out the ones that kind of got a little crushed there. And that's how we set up his eyes. Once again, it's all how you want your spider to look. These were super easy. A little bit of hot glue again around the edges and some paint. So once his body was all finished, we did take some sealant, spray sealant. We used just your everyday can spray sealant for this guy at first. What we're going to do this year is I'm going to look for some clear Flex Seal and spray him down just to really give him that extra special coating once I get all this patched up. Make sure you seal them. Once again, out in the weather. Protect yourselves from having to do what we're doing now and doing any repair work the very next year. Okay, so now I'm going to touch base on how we did our legs for our spider. Once we got the body figured out and the size we wanted for the body, we then kind of scaled up how big we wanted our legs and the overall look. This is how 7 out of 8 of our legs look. So we have a smaller piece. This end over here attaches to the body. And there's his little foot over there. So we have a slightly smaller section that runs there. A longer piece here. and then a short little one for the foot. And all we did is took 1/2-inch PVC pipes, cut them down, then we got foam insulation for piping, glued that all around these parts just to give it a little more girth. At that point in time, I wasn't very confident in my foam carving, so we did a little extra with actual foam instead of spray foam. And then I wanted each joint to have a little bit more body to it, so we wrapped it with duct tape, and to give the whole leg just a little bit of texture to it, because I didn't want them to be hairy, but I wanted them to have some texture. We got sheets of cheesecloth. So what we did is we cut out longer strips for these pieces, glued them to the foam. The first run I did with the first leg, I painted the cheesecloth first, and it was a big pain to try to get back on after, because it kind of gets a little stiff. And then we had to spray the leg down anyways, so we decided it would be best to put the cheesecloth on first and then spray the leg down with the spray paint we used. But we just put one small strip through here, and then we folded some and wrapped it around all the joints afterwards. And once again, sprayed it all down. Now for the position of the legs that we were looking for, we found that the best way and the best joint setup for your PVC is to have a 45 come out of the body, which, focus, attaches to the leg. Then you're going to get a 90 up here. We tried a 45 at first, and that didn't bring the legs down enough to touch the roof, so we switched up to a 90 at all the upper joints. Now I guess it's going to depend on the pitch of your roof or where you're sticking your spider on what you need to do. We have a fairly flat front on the roof. I'll put pictures up to show you what Hemi looks like when he's all assembled and up on the roof at the end of the video. But that's what we used for ours. If you have a higher pitch on yours, you're going to want to play with the angles a little bit. It's going to take some use to get a few parts, play around with your angles, see what you like the best. But we used a 90 up here, and then we came down to a second 45. So we get a 45 at the beginning into the body, 45 at the end, and a 90 in the middle. And then we took a heat gun at the very bottom, and then just kind of created little feet that stuck out for there. Now, as I said before, when I pulled this out, that's 7 out of 8 legs. Our plan for Hemi was to have him up on the roof, coming over just the very front of it. And we wanted to get the Cocoon Corpse animatronic from Spirit and have the 8th leg right in the front a little longer and kind of scooped down to make it look like he's pulling the Cocoon Corpse up to the top of the roof to eat him. So unfortunately, we missed out buying him in 2019. 2020, Spirit, our location, did not bring back a Cocoon Corpse. They didn't even have one in the box. And shipping to Canada, the shipping alone is almost double what the price of the animatronic is. So we made ourselves a cheap little one. If we get everything done, we're changing the look a little bit, so we're not going to have a Cocoon Corpse pulling up, so I'm going to shorten that front leg. But when we built this guy, We had the 1, 2, 3, and then we had the leg really up front. So as you can see from here, there's the fangs. This leg is the one that reaches down. So then if you go over on this side, that's the very front leg on this one. So you see it's a lot farther away. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And what we did on these joints, this is just extra pieces of the cheesecloth we just tie up just to kind of hide that look a little bit, so you don't see these bright white pieces of PVC sticking out. What I'm going to do eventually, once I'm done getting all the rest of the builds that we want to get done, is I'm going to take the legs, spray foam them, and then sculpt them in the hard foam. We did find that there's not much weight to the legs at all with the insulation foam and the cheesecloth, so we really had to anchor that down. Thankfully, we had some heavy line from a deep sea fishing rod that we cut up, and we hooked him up to the roof with that and then tied down any legs that we had to tie down. But this is Hemi. This is a giant spider. They look intimidating. They're really not hard to do, guys. It took us a while just because A, he was our first build, and B, trying to find the time to get him done. That was the fun part. But here you go. Oh, and with the fangs, some more of the foam, and we just pointed them. I'm taking these down a little bit. I found that they were a little too big, but that's an easy fix later on. So this is it. There's your giant spider. So we'll do a quick run through. So you have your plywood, cut your shape. We wanted that space in the middle to have that 2 distinct pieces, so we cut a figure 8 shape. Don't make it too thin here, but make it thin enough. Then we blew up 2 balloons, smaller one, bigger one, attached them down to the board with tape and a little bit of spray foam. After that came the cans of spray foam around the balloons. We left the balloons in place. We didn't pop them, anything, just to give the foam a little bit more support. So we spray foamed the head and the body. We shaved that all down, and I shaped him how I wanted it to look. And then I covered him in a layer of drywall mud. That's completely up to you. It'll depend on what kind of foam you use, whether you want to give that extra little bit of layer. If you're using a really foam, if you're using a foam that leaves really big bubbles, which is what we were doing, you'll want to kind of smooth that out a little bit, which is where we wanted the drywall mud. So if you use something like tight foam, which the bubble density is a lot smaller, you may not have to worry about covering it in the drywall mud. It'll be 100% your choice again. So we got that done. We painted her. Eyeballs. You got your attachments, your eye hooks on the bottom, and see, we got some on the sides as well. For the legs, you need your 1/2-inch PVC pipes. You'll need a medium-sized one, a longer one, medium-sized one, smaller one for your joints. Some extra small pieces here to attach into the body if you want to do the removable parts like we did for storage later. You need your 45s, your 90s up top, 45 down again. That's what we found our best angles were. Those, once again, play around with those depending on how your roof is. And then we cover them in the pipe insulation, cheesecloth, painted the bad boy up, sealed it, and he was ready to go for last Halloween. Everybody loved him. So, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to hit us up in the comments. We will answer them as soon as we can. And just have fun, guys. Halloween's all about fun. Hope you enjoyed this. Like and subscribe, that way we can do more for you guys. We know you guys are liking what we're putting out there, and we can do more, and we will get more out there for you. Happy haunting.